We're back for another round of testing our black, white, red burn deck. Obviously, we have no lands and we need some. This, however, looks better, although we don't have any black lands, so it can't cast two of our cards. So it's not perfect, but it's probably better than 5. Interesting. Blue, red. Haven't seen a ton of that. Maybe red, white, blue something. We'll see. Alright, we're going to be an optimist and say we're going to draw some stuff. So let's go ahead and start off with turn 1 Pillar of Flame. Part of the problem that our first round had was that it didn't have anything going on in the turn 1s, and that's not where our deck wants to be. Our deck wants to be aggressive right out of the gate. Alright, so let's go ahead and cast Deathrite Shaman. I'm doing that over the damage spells that would make better use of all of our mana, because we want to be able to start untapping with that every turn. Basically, we want to add 2 to every burn spell. Alright, so our opponent's Searing Spirit, a creature. It's not terrible. One issue with this deck is that it is all about card advantage. So we basically try to not run out of gas, which is part of why we're running Faithless Looting, so we can drop additional lands to get gas. So our opponent trading us 1 card for 1 card is not great when they have more cards than us, but we're still doing alright. We've gotten out half of our opponent's life total, essentially. We just, need to keep going. But we do have probably all the mana we're going to need all game. Already. Really curious what our opponent is on. I passed the turn because I'm kind of expecting a counterspell out of my opponent. I'm going to see if I can get my opponent to tap out. If I can't soon, I'll probably go ahead and just play the Burning Spear or the Searing Spear to draw it out. But, alright, so now we see what our opponent's about. So we'll go ahead and burn our opponent once. We could wait. We could burn Olivia and kill her, because she's a pretty quick clock. But she can't actually ping anything to get bigger. I guess she can ping herself. Regardless, getting our opponent to 5 is very, very good, because there are a lot of cards in our deck that will put a very quick end to our opponent. And we do have flashback, so I will actually go ahead and keep playing lands, because getting our opponent to 2 would obviously be very good. Though we need to draw some gas real quick. Alright, so we've got our opponent to 2. Our opponent does not know, but we have lethal in hand. Alright, so there is a counterspell there. Does not surprise me, but so be it. This is actually kind of interesting. Grixis, what is this? Tempo, maybe? Grixis midrange? Oh. And this is part of what I say about you see interesting decks in the tournament practice. Curious if blue is just there for counters or if it's got interesting stuff. It could be a Grixis Delver, which would certainly be interesting. Alright, Olivia's legendary, so we don't really care if we give Evil Twin to our opponent. Snapcaster is probably the better spell. Yep, Snapcaster is the card our opponent took. However, if our opponent is trying to Snapcast a Syncopate, it's going to take a lot of his mana. I'm going ahead and casting these now while our opponent is unable to counter them. And then all we have to do is draw any spell that does damage that will not get countered. Our opponent has to do damage as fast as he can in order to try and resist. 14 is an awful lot, though. It's looking like we're probably okay. Alright, I'm glad that our opponent only hit lands there, so just drew 2 lands. Alright, I'm looting now. Perhaps I should have waited, but we'll draw 2 and discard 2, and we can hit a bump in the night, exactly. So next turn we will have lethal. Our opponent has to save Syncopate or other counter spell. Our opponent has 7. And Searing Spears. So that's lethal. Almost. That was a very close game. Let's see what we've got. Our opponent's deck is a bit on the slow side. Obsidat is not terrible. Traitor's Blood is also okay. We only saw little guys from our opponent. So it's hard to be entirely sure what else he's got. I don't think his opponents were quite big enough for Traitor's Blood. Although taking an Olivia is kind of good because we can use additional mana to ping with it. Obsidat's good. There's a chance our opponent could try and steal it. Let's stick with what we've got for now. On the play. Alright. Godless Shrine, Deathrite Shaman on turn 1 is alright. If we loot away lands later, we can use the Deathrite Shaman to give us mana. We have all of our colors, so it's probably okay. Next turn, I'll probably Pillar of Flame into Deathrite Shaman to maximize damage. Alright, I have to target the spell in the graveyard, not the opponent. Alright, so that's a decent draw. We've got made our opponent remove our creature, and we got some value out of it, so that's good. Alright, we've got the Faithless Looting Bell. I'll probably save it for later, for after we've drawn some cards that aren't as good. The Thunderbolt can be used to kill an Olivia if we need to, which is good. I probably should have main phased our burn spell just so that it couldn't be countered. Oh well. If our opponent's got a counter, that's okay. go ahead and loot. We can drop the land if we need to. Let's get the Vexing Devil out there, see if our opponent's willing to let us keep a creature. Interesting. That means our opponent probably has a Searing Spear. Wondering if maybe I should only have 3 Faithless Legions just so I don't get hangs with multiples so often. I'm gonna pop out my graveyard so we can see it. Alright. So our opponent did have the Searing Spear like I thought. Right, I'm gonna see if we can draw something better. Eventually we'll probably want another land for a Spark Trooper, but we'll see. Okay, our opponent's getting a ton of value out of those Duresses. Kendall from the Kitchen Finks is messaging me. Let's go ahead and bolt our opponent while he can't properly counter. There is a card that could counter the blue to counter target instant spell, but we're not able to play around that right now. Alright. This game is admittedly looking pretty grim. Let's go ahead and loot, see if we can get anything better. If nothing else, we can see if the next cards were really bad and avoid them. I think Searing Spear and Bump of the Night are better than the 2 cards we had before. So let's go ahead and drop them. Our opponent is also sifting through his deck. Now let's go ahead and get the Deathrite Shaman out for the same reason we did earlier, so we can untap sooner. Then we will wait and use Searing Spear. I'm saving Bump of the Night because it costs the least mana. Another nice thing about Deathrite Shamans is they would be able to exile my opponent's Searing Spears and such so that they could not be recast. Obviously, I'd have to get one online for long enough to do so, but you have to assume that sometimes your opponent doesn't have all the answers. Okay, so now we want another land. sometimes your opponent really does have all the answers. Honestly, we're at 10. Our opponent seems to keep having gas, and he's got a Forbidden Alchemy he could flash back once he draws one more land. I'm thinking that there's no way for us to win this game, although land in an uncountered Spark Trooper would really help. So we'll keep the hope alive and hope he doesn't have a super amazing play right yet. Alright, that's a good game because our opponent has a flashback to Searing Spear. Burn deck is not performing quite as well as I'd like, but it's definitely a starting point. It was actually performing a lot better in the unrecorded matches. I did some unrecorded matches, including some against Michael Jacobs, and, you know, won through Thragtusks and through Deathrite Shamans and all sorts of stuff. Just having a bit of trouble lately.